Welcome to A State of Mind. This is Julian Royce. I'm recording this here in my office where I work as a therapist, meditation teacher, and facilitator, and I'm excited to bring you a new episode because I truly believe in the power of conversations to change lives. Please check out the show notes for each episode to learn more about the topics covered and our guests, and check out the affiliate links of all our sponsors. That is a wonderful way to support this podcast, as well as visiting our Patreon page to support the podcast directly. I want to share with you about kanna. Kanna is an amazing herb from South Africa. The scientific name is Selatium tortuosum, and it's been used for centuries to support mood, emotional openness, and connection. I've been working with a company called Ka Empathogenics here in Boulder, and I have an affiliate link below so you can order it and support the podcast. And I just want to share a little bit more about it. There's been some amazing scientific studies showing that people taking kanna actually score higher in compassion and empathy and openness, and it's a mood uplifter. It helps you feel better, almost like drinking a strong cup of dark chocolate cacao might be something similar, but it's different than that. It has its own unique feeling. One cautionary note is it's not recommended if you're taking SSRIs or other drugs that act on your serotogenic system, and you should talk to your healthcare provider. So this isn't healthcare advice or medical advice, but kanna is legal and it is powerful and potent, and it can be a helpful ally in your path. So if you're interested in exploring it more, check out the link below, and I look forward to seeing you there. Another way you can support this podcast and improve your overall health and wellness is through Sexology. Sexology is a traditional mineral-rich resin. It's been used for thousands of years in the Himalayas, and it's really incredible. I have access to really high-quality Sexology that's been tested and made sure that it doesn't have any harmful additives, nothing like that. It's from the Ural Mountains of Russia, and you can message me at the link below in the podcast show notes if you're interested. And I'll just share a little bit about Sexology. It's actually formed from ancient plant matter that's been compressed over centuries. It's very high in fulvic acid and trace minerals. It helps support mitochondrial function, energy production, and nutrient absorption. And a lot of people today are using it for vitality, endurance, cognitive clarity, overall resilience. It can taste a little gnarly, but I like to drink it in the morning with warm water, which is a traditional way to take it. And if you haven't tried it out, try it out. It's definitely been a game changer for me, and I think it's a great way to start off your day. Another way you can support this podcast as well as your health and wellness is to check out the blue light blocking glasses from EMR Tech. There's an affiliate link below in the show notes, and they're making really high quality glasses that I think are also pretty fashionable. There's different glasses for during the day, for during the sunset, or for during the evening. And I think this is a simple thing that we could all start doing more that can really improve your health. It'll improve your sleep at night if you wear them during the day and at night. There's research showing that blue light suppresses melatonin. It disrupts our circadian rhythm, negatively impacting our sleep quality, our recovery, and our nervous system regulation. And so as more and more of us are spending more time on screens, having things like good blue light blocking glasses that you actually like to wear, I think can be really helpful. So check it out below. Let me know if you have any questions. So I'm here today with Saint. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is a pleasure. And we were both just down in Envision, which was an amazing festival in Costa Rica.
Yes.
And you actually, I learned this about you. You helped, what's the right word? Produce some of the Envision in the past?
Word.
Yeah. Okay.
I used to help produce Envision and the back end of just, I like to call it fun facilitating and really creating a great hospitality artist experience and staff experience that helps literally build the village that everybody comes to for Envision.
I love that. Yeah. So for people listening, Envision's a week-long festival in Costa Rica, in the jungle, right on the beach, right on the coast there. And I know so much work must go into creating that, so many different people and organizations. And
yeah, it takes a few months to just set it up and break it down and really create like a family, a very close-knit group of people having to not only build everything on site, but also survive through all of the different dynamics of living in a jungle and living next to the beach.
Yeah. It's definitely a successful festival. It's been going on for like 10 years or something. Do you know?
I think they're on their 12th year, actually.
12th year. Okay.
Yeah,
amazing.
So completed it. Yeah.
So cool to see that come together and have that continuity and some of the same people. It was my third time going.
Okay,
So I get to
awesome.
see some of the same people, of course, different each time too, but there's a sense of connection, even family there, right? Everyone
Yeah,
coming together and being there and making it happen.
yeah.
Awesome.
It's definitely unique. Out of all of the events that I've done, it's definitely been the most unique experience of putting all of those elements together that you would at a normal festival, and then just adding the jungle.
Well, maybe the jungle's a central part.
It is an essential part. I think so. It's very nourishing. And most places that hold events are usually like a pretty big field. So it's a very different landscape that you have to also incorporate into
Yeah.
holding thousands of people together.
Yeah. And I know it's not, people are camping there. It's not the easiest place to camp in. I talked to one person and they were describing their tent being filled with ants and having to shake it out, like things like that.
Yeah, there's definitely different elements that you wouldn't actually have in those other spaces. There's also monkeys and iguanas. There's like a special chart in the back, like that tells you like what types of snakes to look out for and which ones are like venomous and which ones aren't and that are
Oh,
safe.
cool.
Yeah. So a lot of fun, different dynamics that you don't usually have at a festival.
Yeah. I love iguanas. They're like so amazing. I think maybe people who live in a place like Florida start to take them for granted. But when I first got to Costa Rica and was walking over there, I'm just like seeing this huge iguana in a tree, and it's like you're seeing a dragon or something. I mean,
Yeah.
they're so wild the way they look and all the details on their patterning and their scales and their claws and
Yeah. They're very tough. They fall out of trees all the time.
oh, man.
I've heard them just like fall 20 feet and just like plop, and you're like, what is that? And then you're like, oh, it's an iguana. And then they
Wild,
go
yeah.
about their day.
That's so cool. I actually saw this little video on Instagram of this like biologist in Florida, and like the weather had turned really cold there, like unusually cold, and all the iguanas were like in this comatose state because they're cold-blooded.
Yeah.
And she had like gathered like a pile of them and was like showing them on the camera. And I'm like, wow, I wonder what they think about that. But
They can't really do much
they
about
couldn't
it.
they couldn't do anything about it. Well, great. So creating events like that's been part of your life. How would you introduce yourself to people? Like, what are you up to these days?
So I have pivoted quite a bit. So loving to interact with people. Currently, I am a somatic reclamation guide. So I help people master their eros energy, their truth, and their self, and how they relate to their bodies and their emotion.
Love that.
Yeah.
So say the name of it again, a reclamation guide.
Yeah. Reclamation guide.
And what do you mean by reclamation?
So most people, it's reclaiming their relationship with their body. So most people have really intense emotions come up. Usually people call those like triggers. And so it's really reclaiming what the word trigger or trauma may mean. And it's just a sensation in a way that the body is trying to communicate with you. So if you take that as a body signal instead of like, oh, this is something that I shouldn't touch, you're reclaiming how you relate to not only yourself, but with others.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I like to reframe triggers as an opportunity to, learn about yourself and potentially to heal, hopefully to heal it. You know,
Yeah.
because when it's something like that's coming up, of course, there's a tendency to want to move away from it, to want to fix it, to want to change it, or to go to like, what's wrong with me? Why is this happening?
Yeah.
And to just, try to fix it as quick as you can.
Yeah.
And if you can instead kind of reframe it like, wow, what can I learn from this? Why is it happening? And is this actually an opportunity to heal this on a deeper level? And you can do that if you can like build tools in yourself and understanding, then in that moment you can apply them.
Right.
And in that moment of being triggered is really a doorway, an opportunity that isn't going to be there when you're thinking about it later.
Right.
You can do the healing work later, of course. But I think that piece can get lost. And in my work with people, one-on-one, like it's like, oh, this thing happened a month ago, or sometimes 10 years ago, right? I got triggered. And it's like, can we access at least some of it right now? Feel that right now. We can use memory to do that, but to tune into the feeling of it now as a way to really heal on a deeper level.
Yeah.
Because the danger is that you can intellectually understand, okay, this is what happens, this is why I feel this way. But if you're not able to really work directly with the feeling and the emotion and the energy, it's probably just going to come up again, right?
Yeah, for most of my work, I see people use avoidance of like, this triggers me, so I need to step away from it instead of like, what can I learn from it? So, really reframing that, the word trigger in itself is like, we have this like negative connotation with it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not good or bad. And most people are like, oh, if I feel bad, then I should step away from it instead of,
Mm.
like you said, feeling into it. And it's like, what is it trying to tell me? What do I need to move through to be able to, um, either not have like such an intense expression of whatever that trigger is, or what am I supposed to basically transmute this into, and like a learning lesson for me.
Yeah, yeah. It's deep work. It's so important. And it's so human. Like
Yeah.
we're human. We get triggered. And I like to remind myself of that and people I work with. Like, it's okay. It's human.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. It would be unrealistic to expect it's never going to happen again.
Absolutely.
And I don't think we would even want it to never happen again. I mean, it's part of being alive. Our emotions have information, and
Yeah.
there's a reason why we have them. And it's good to validate that and
Yeah.
understand that.
It's it's really the breakthrough of getting to higher plateaus. Is I often talk about in my work is this pendulum of sensation. And so if we avoid the negative, then we're also avoiding the positive, and we can't have that like full spectrum of emotion and feeling of like, wow, I wish I a lot of people that like have depression or anxiety tend to numb their emotions. And so they're
Mm.
like, I don't feel sad, but I also don't know how to feel happy either. And
Mm.
so really, if you can dive into one, you can definitely like soar into the other. And so really getting people comfortable with um, playing with the full spectrum of emotion instead of like, oh, I'm only supposed to feel these good feelings, or I'm only supposed to feel these bad feelings.
Yes.
And like you said, it's life. It's you're supposed to have it all, the full range.
The full spectrum, the full
Yeah.
range. Yeah. Yeah, and that's well said. So if you're denying the so-called negative emotions and trying to feel good all the time, you could end up muting your experience,
Mm-hmm.
and cutting yourself off from that life force energy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's such a big topic. Getting triggered, having an emotional reaction. I think part of what it means is you're having an emotional reaction that's bigger than that particular circumstance necessarily requires or needs. I mean, that's a sign that there's something deeper getting triggered, probably
Mm-hmm.
connected with stuff from the past, right?
Yeah.
It could go back all the way to your childhood, of course. I like to help people have tools so that, as a mature adult who can function in the world, to have the ability to put things to the side, actually, but you can make that a conscious choice. For example, if you had a really important meeting at your work, or
Mm-hmm.
you're going to meet with your boss, and it's not a time or place to like be processing your emotions or to be in that triggered state. So there's a skill of like being able to set it to the side so you can do things you need to do, show up in certain ways, maybe
Mm-hmm.
even show up for your kid, whatever it is,
Right.
but then come back to it and be with it. Or if you have the time and space to like be with it in the moment, like I was just speaking to, and that can be so powerful. And if you're in a relationship with someone, well, that's the place where we're going to get the most triggered probably.
Yeah.
And to see that as a good thing, and I would suggest you want to be in a relationship with someone who can meet you there.
Right.
And who can, maybe not all the time, and it's not about being perfect, but at least some of the time, a good percentage of the time, like be with you when you're triggered so that you can get to a new place, so that you can have that healing. And then you're actually sharing more of yourself. You're building real intimacy.
Yeah.
Because you're not trying to be perfect all the time. You're actually being real with each other.
Absolutely. In relationship, it's multiple dynamics. Usually, like the core ones are your children, your partner, and your parents. And typically, it stems from the parents. And we subconsciously learn ages around 5 through 12 of like how we're supposed to relate to the people that we love and what that dynamic is. And then we don't talk about it with other people. And so we're like, oh, this is how you connect with people, and this is how you love each other. And then as we get older and we have relationships outside of our family, that's where like that partnership comes in. And when you find a romantic relationship, and a lot of the times you will find similar love languages or opposite types of love languages of like, okay, I have to do X, Y, and Z to be loved. And then they don't always translate as like the same thing. Does that make sense?
Like different people receive and give love in different ways. Is that
Yeah, like a lot. So there's like I think there's a new book called like Polysecure.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it
I know that
talks
book.
about like all of the attachment styles that we have in relationship. So somebody may have learned how to relate to people with a avoidant attachment style or an anxious attachment style, and usually they're like opposites. So they're like, why don't you love like me? Or like, why can't you meet me in emotion like me? And that gives us an opportunity to heal those wounds in relationship that we may not have been able to with our parents. And then also, when you choose to have children, it is like a direct reflection of who you are and like what you're teaching that very impressionable young person. And so you get this mirror of like, okay, what do I actually know about relating to my body and my emotions and the people that I love and care about? So that's like the three main channels of learning how to relate to yourself and others.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to that book, Polysecure. I think it's the first chapter, does a really great job as an overview of attachment theory. So I've recommended that to people I work with, like just read that first chapter to get an overview of attachment theory. It's really well written. And it's interesting. I mean, some people, according to, the research and psychology, had a good childhood, good enough parents, and have more or less naturally developed a secure attachment style. And that's so important. And they're able to show up for their partner consistently and create that security and safety. And others of us, have been more anxious or avoidant or fearful. There's different, the languaging can be confusing.
Yeah.
But if you're not securely attached, it's good to know that about yourself and be honest. And then it's really good to do the work to get to what's called earned secure attachment.
Yeah.
Which means you've healed your attachment wounds at least to some degree and are able to show up in a secure way. And we could reframe that in a positive way, because if you do that inner work, which isn't necessarily easy and can take years, but you learn a ton about yourself and about other people and about relationships, and you're able to be securely attached from a really conscious place of having done that work.
Right.
And sometimes I wonder if someone's more naturally securely attached, great for them, but they haven't had that opportunity to do the work the hard way and get there the hard way.
Yeah.
And so they might have the insights and the tools and the skills that someone who's done that work has developed.
Yeah. With any type of theory, I have noticed that like the one like quote unquote good outcome is like very rare to find, and it's just like the ideal model of like what we should be or what we could be. I still think I don't even remember where I took like the quiz, but like learning that I was like a certain percentage secure, a certain percentage anxious, and a certain percentage avoidant. And so it's never black and white. And I think that we come to realize that at a certain age in our adulthood that nothing is ever black and white. And once we learn how to like play in that scale, it becomes a lot easier to be the best version of secure. I think I would be curious what you would consider as a secure attachment style.
Yeah, great question. But I can relate to that. I've done those quizzes myself and done my own work on myself, and I'm still in that process. And I can, I have a percentage of each, and notice how I will show up in different ways in different situations. And I've learned that that's, more normal than you might realize from studying the literature on it.
Right.
So if I am relating with someone who's super avoidant, I'll notice myself start to get more anxious. Like, what's going on? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? If I'm with someone who's really anxious, I notice this tendency to want to move away. Like, wow, I need some space. Like, I don't feel like responding to this text right now. Like, wow, they just sent me 5 texts in a row. Like,
Yeah.
like I'm just not going to respond. Well, that's an avoidant behavior.
Yeah.
So it's partly circumstantial,
Yes.
you know. But in terms of what a secure attachment is, I've really been thinking about this and looking at it. And I think consistency and a sense of stability, a sense of strength, a sense of if we're talking about romantic relationships, it could be friendship too. I think you're in a relationship with someone, there's a sense of like, I love you and I know that they love me, and that's not being constantly questioned. And I'm able to share more authentically, more vulnerably, and I'm not getting super freaked out about that. Or, it's more this, part of secure attachment is you're able to be yourself more fully. And there's not all this fear or anxiety or stress around rejection or that. And interestingly, in terms of psychology research, people who are more securely attached are going to tend to attract and be in relationships with other people who are securely attached. And when they're first starting to get to know someone and date someone, if that person shows a lot of signs of anxious attachment or avoidant attachment or disorganized attachment, they're going to lose interest and move on and find another partner. And I think that's an interesting piece to look at too. So like the person that you have attracted and are in a relationship with is also giving you a lot of information about your attachment style and your issues. And without blaming yourself, right? It's not about blame, but just to learn about yourself.
Yeah. Relationships are mirrors for
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how we love to relate, is like, okay, whether we recognize it or not, is like, what does this person bring out like the best in me, and like, or does this person bring out the worst in me, and does this person meet me where I'm at, and really just getting to play that game with that person of like, how intimate can we get and be really secure in who we are as a person. Yeah.
And it's part of my path through life, and my own development has been really valuing this more and more, partly through learning about it and through ups and downs in relationships, and getting to a place where it's like, okay, I really want secure attachment, and I don't want to settle for anything less, and I've really recognizing that is the path to deeper fulfillment and happiness. And if someone, for example, is really avoidantly attached, they're probably not thinking that. They're probably, they might like, for example, one night stands. There's not a lot of commitment there. It feels good to them. So like really orienting and recognizing, like in the long term, especially, that you're going to be served and feel better and be happier and have that true authenticity, true love through securely attached relationship. And again, it's not about being perfect, but it's good to have a roadmap, because otherwise years and years could go by and you could be thinking like, I'm doing fine, I don't need anyone. I've got my job, I've got my apartment or my house or whatever. And I think our culture like tends towards that avoidant attachment style, actually. And I think for some people it works well, in the sense they could be totally focused on their career and they could be very successful, and they could not be realizing or worried about the fact that they're not experiencing true intimacy in their life.
Right.
But there's a big cost to that, right? It's such an important part of being alive, being human.
Yeah. One night stands are definitely a different type of game. And it's like, so if you want to use the like analogy of games, it's like playing Go Fish versus like playing poker, or like checkers versus chess, of like, okay, what is this like cat and mouse game of the chase of like the one night stand, and like, how can I make this person feel safe and secure enough to be intimate with me in this like short period of time, instead of like a longer game of like, okay, how do I make this person feel safe and secure for a long extended period of time, where we can actually like build and create stuff together.
And people will go through different chapters in their life, different phases, and it's a journey. It doesn't have to look a certain way. But it's really helpful to learn about attachment styles and know where you're at and have an understanding there. And in terms of our culture, I was thinking too, like that we have the archetype of like the cowboy, like so many movies and like the lone gunman, and he's like out there on his own and he's the hero and he saves the day. But
The
there's like
maverick.
the maverick, yeah, a solitary figure and
Yeah.
very romantic and strong and beautiful. And, but also not the basis for like a happy family life or a long relationship, right? So it's definitely in our culture.
I mean, there's so many Western movies of like, yeah, the maverick like going out and like being the best of whatever he does. And ironically, there's always a love story involved. And like in there's that like tension of like being the person that you like have an outward facing persona to, and then like where you want to be like tenderly held and loved in that like
Mm.
in the Western love story of like, okay, I have to go back and I have to like settle to be able to get what I actually desire versus like what I thought I wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it really relates to individualism. I guess that's
Mm-hmm.
part of what I'm getting at versus working together as a team. And I love basketball. It's the one sport I watch.
Okay.
And in basketball, you'll see 9 times out of 10, the team that actually wins the championship is just a phenomenal teamwork.
Yeah.
And they trust each other so much. And that's why they are able to win and win the championship. But then you'll see these like amazing players, and they're super great at one-on-one basketball. They're super great individually, but sometimes they don't actually work that well as a team.
Yeah.
And so time and again, if you watch basketball over the years, you'll see these like phenomenal players that never win a championship. They never really gel with their team.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. Like, yeah, they got all the points. They got a lot of, great statistics.
Yeah.
But they're not getting the championship. And it's because it's a team sport.
Yeah.
I love that about basketball.
That is the only sport that I ever played in
really?
middle school was basketball. I wouldn't say I'm very athletic. I'm very active though. But it is very important. I have noticed even just like growing up with brothers, when the dynamic is like a team activity versus like an individual activity, you go like so much further.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I really loved just going back to like events and production of like being in a team setting where we're all working towards this like one big goal. And usually the big goal is like creating connection with people and once in a lifetime experiences and really seeing people's lives change.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that must be incredible teamwork in the sense of a team. And
yeah.
It's interesting with something like music festival production or a lot of things in life. There's some people that are behind the scenes and and some people thrive there. And then some people want to be in front of the camera, so to speak, or on the stage.
Right.
And we need both. We really, really need both, right?
Yeah. It's not, you can't do one without the other. And I think in those settings, you realize everybody plays a different role and no role is like better than the other. It's just how do we come together to create an experience that everybody can enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, what would be the goal of a festival like Envision? I guess there's a lot of goals, but if you summed it up, like
there's a lot. They have some pillars. They really care about the community is a really big one. They have a lot of people that come returning year after year.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you've been 3 times. I think I've been 5 or 6 times now. After a certain amount, you just kind of lose track. So it's creating that sense of community. It's really around sustainability and like how do we move forward in that connection that we make with each other and how do we sustain the land that we're on. The big thing about Envision that I really love is they have like sorting stations, there's places for recycling and trash and then usually compost, and really making sure that not only are the people taken care of, but the land is taken care of. They really care about the Costa Rican culture. So the indigenous people this year, I don't know, did you go see the Sacred Fire?
Yeah. I was at the Sacred Fire and there was a place, I think it was called Ancient Future Collective near the Sacred Fire. And I listened to some indigenous elders speak there. And that was really cool part of the experience. Yeah.
I think that was really beautiful part that they integrated in and made the experience just like 10 times better. The Sacred Fire went 7 days, 24 hours, and they stoked it. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then, people were really held there. And I think that's always a really important space to have. It's kind of like there's other spaces that are like regulation zones, but really just when you are in those like supercharged spaces of being able to commune with your ancestors and communing with the local spirits and really just making it a full rounded experience, not just I'm going to go see some like really cool music.
Yeah. I love that.
A couple other things that Envision's really great at is teaching people and educating them on new ideologies or ancient, like I forgot what it's called again.
Yeah, ancient future.
Of technology that has been around maybe for thousands of years that we kind of forgot about, and people are bringing it back. Really having important conversations within the community and learning how to relate to each other in a better, more sustainable way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate that about Envision Festival. And I will say that it's a week-long festival. I don't know if I saw a single piece of trash, laying on the ground, for example.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good. And the community there is so good.
Yeah.
And it creates that ethos, and when there's a critical mass of people that are caring about the environment and the land, then everyone, is like a gravitational pull to like also do that.
Yeah.
Versus if you're at a big festival and it's like trash everywhere, you're like, why not? Like, why walk over to the trash can when I can just
when there's all this trash over here?
Yeah, so it creates that, and that's just one example. But all the food, even the porta potties were like pretty clean. But like the care, the hand washing stations, the way the signs were set up.
Yeah, and the water temples.
The water temple, yeah.
Beautiful.
So there's a real, you go to fill up your water bottle and you're at this water temple, and there's a real invitation, like take a moment and appreciate water and connect with that. And the fire too.
Yeah.
I had a moment at the fire. So the Saturday, Envision, like I guess the last day was Sunday, but Saturday was kind of like the big night. And late Saturday afternoon, I went to a beach near there called Playa Hermosa, and my backpack got stolen. Right. And I had like everything in the backpack, it's like my little man purse that I was carrying everything with all week. And the police came and we tried to find it because it had like an Apple tracker thing in it. But it, my service wasn't really working, wasn't really showing up. Actually, it turned into a whole thing, but we saw the Apple tracker and we drove to where it was. And it was just this like field next to a restaurant. So whoever took the backpack must have noticed it and like thrown it out of their vehicle probably.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
So this was like several hours. And then I finally went to the festival later, and I went to the fire with my friends and had like a moment and like kind of like a little ceremony of like letting it go. Like, okay, I did what I could do. I need to like let this go and be here now and not let this negatively affect the rest of my experience too much. And we're there at that fire, and I remember looking up and there was like the most beautiful woman with like, I can't even describe it, but she looked basically like an Egyptian goddess, and she had two men on either side of her. And they were both dark skinned, like maybe African or whatever. And they were doing their own ceremony there. And the two men were holding spears. Wow. And so just like looking up and like seeing this like through the smoke of the fire was so powerful and amazing. And I don't know exactly what they were doing, but they were definitely very intentional in having their own practice. And it was, the fire was definitely a powerful place, and it helped me let go, fire and that letting go and surrendering. Right. And I saw a lot of people really, really having powerful experiences in that space.
Yeah. So. That was my favorite way to start every night, was at the Sacred Fire. And just, really grounding in and letting go of expectation and being like, okay, what am I, like, spirit guide me, like where I should go, who I should be interacting with, instead of just having all this expectation and then like not getting met in that expectation, because you're like, oh, I'm gonna see this and do that, and like I really want to experience this, and just really being present. I think that's what the fire brought to me, was presence.
It sounds like that quality of surrender.
Yeah, very much so.
Interestingly, one of the first days at Envision, I got to meet this man who was like the owner, that's how he was introduced to me, of Envision. And he gave me this little wooden necklace with the word trust written on it.
Oh, nice.
So I've been meditating on trust. It felt so appropriate for me and where I'm at, and
Yeah.
staying with that. But I'm interested to hear more about you, like how you got to be interested in the work you're doing.
Yeah.
And like, and the work you're doing has a component of working with people's sexuality, right?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So I had a moment at the same time I think everybody else in the world had a moment, which was 2020, 2021.
Good old COVID.
Yeah. of like, what am I doing? And so I had been producing events for a while, and just really part of that was, yes, I love the like community aspect, but also of like chasing these like really high highs and then like coming down and being like super low, and feeling a lot of like disconnect that I used to have, and realizing like I wasn't actually feeling like happy, and I didn't know what like happiness felt like anymore. And I was like, I used to remember what that feeling was like, but not anymore.
Wow, that's a big moment, and that
Yeah.
takes some courage to admit that to yourself sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so just noticing like there were things that I would do like on a regular basis that would bring me happiness. And then it didn't like spark any joy in me anymore. So realizing that something needed to shift, because something had shifted in me. And I have been in therapy for probably over a decade. I had experienced sexual trauma as a child. So I just, that was kind of like the path, was like once that all came to fruition and ended, it was like, okay, now you go to therapy. So I had been in therapy for about like 10 years.
And that's a long time. So I assume like when someone like you shares that it's helping you, right? Otherwise you wouldn't stay in it for so long.
Yeah, it did help me. It was definitely like waves of like a few years, and then stepping away, and then like moving and finding a new therapist, or finding someone that fit me better. But the biggest challenge for me was with my sexual trauma, there wasn't a lot of like, oh, you can overcome this. It was all just like, okay, this is how you manage and cope with this.
That's what you're getting in therapy?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And that's disempowering, right?
Yeah, I was like, okay, cool.
I don't like that.
This is just like an uphill battle for the rest of my life. And honestly, like that's how I felt it's for a very long time. And so really just having all this extra free time during COVID of like, okay, there's got to be something else. And knowing from like a higher self version of like, there's got to be more. And like, it's got to get better than this. Cause like, it has to. And just having that inner knowing, like it's going to get better.
Like you got to a point where you're like, this needs to change, like in a real way.
Yeah.
Not just cope with it.
Yeah, exactly. And so like the things that I've been doing don't work the same way anymore. So I found a somatic sexologist, and I ended up starting to work with them, and then ended up doing a 9-month mentorship on somatic sexology, and all about emotions and sexuality, and how those all play a part in our body. And a lot of this survival patterns that we have, they are very autopilot, automatic in our bodies. And until we make an active change to rewire those neural pathways, that's just how our body's always going to react. And so once I was guided and was able to really get past a lot of my triggers of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and being like, oh, I can react in a different way now, I realized that that was like my purpose. And if I can do it, then other people can. And I really want to help people
Hmm.
get to that other side and have a new relationship with their body that isn't just numbing out the pain, because it also numbs out the pleasure.
Yes. Yeah. That's like what you shared at the beginning. It's
Yeah.
so true. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for
Yeah.
doing that work. That word sexologist is a funny word. That might be new to some people. Like, how would you say what that is?
Yeah. So it's sexologist is more of like a clinical term of like, this comes from like your sexuality in a more I guess scientific way. I don't know.
Mhm.
I also think that like magic is just science not yet explained.
Mhm.
So really finding these like ancient methodologies that are now quote unquote new. So when I started this work, nobody knew what somatic meant.
Mm.
And now everybody uses that term.
Yeah, that's become more and more common, which is a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good thing. But it also is like, okay, you have to realize like the full aspect of what soma is and somatics, which is it's all about the soul. So like, how does the soul interact with your sexuality?
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How does your soul interact with it? It's
Yeah.
such deep work, and there's so much stigma and taboo and hesitancy to talk about it. It's part of why I want to have you on the podcast,
Yeah.
to shed light and share it with people. And so, yeah, deep out of you for stepping into that, because
Yeah.
I know it's not easy, and there's not like a clearly defined path exactly in our society for that kind of work.
No, there's not. But I figured it out, and I'm really grateful to be able to share my method with other people.
Mm.
And it's the beauty of it is there's like, it is, sexuality is a spectrum also, just like your emotions are a spectrum. So you can come at it in like multiple different ways. It's not like A plus B equals C. It can be, it's very like more artistic, I would like to say. And that's why I like to use the word spectrum, is like you get to use colors and shapes and textures. And it's really like, what is the blueprint for you specifically, and not like, okay, how do we like treat this condition?
Right. It was a totally different outlook,
Yeah.
and it's a totally different way of working. And I think it's a lot deeper and more can integrate with your life more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a big shadow side of a lot of psychology and therapy. It's like, what is the condition? How do we treat it?
Yeah.
And what is this quote unquote normal that we're trying to get to? Or what is sanity that we're trying to get to?
Yeah. And everybody has a different definition of sane. Like some
Yeah.
people sane is like, oh, I'm gonna have a 9 to 5 job, and then I have my hobby, and like I hang out at home at the weekends, and that's like their sanity. And some people that would like drive them crazy.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, I need to like be in a job where I'm constantly moving and I have odd hours, or and then like I don't like being at home. And that is their version of sanity.
Yeah, it's going to look so different for different people. And I love honoring the diversity. And it can change and shift over time. And some people are called to do this deep work around their sexuality, and some people aren't. And that's totally fine too.
Yeah.
Like, there's just different paths for different people. And, we don't have enough time perhaps to do it all.
Yeah.
but
But I think sexuality is a core part of our life force energy. So if you are not really cultivating that life force energy in you, then it also blocks your creativity. So I think that's what I experienced also, was like I used to be like super hypersexual. And then once I felt numb, like I didn't have any desire for sex whatsoever. So
you went from one extreme to the other.
Yeah. And then spent years figuring out, okay, like what's the healthy balance for me, and like what are good boundaries for me, and what does like my flavor of sexuality actually is. And I think for me, that's a very big like shapeshifter mentality, and other people are what's the word? Are like one flavor specifically that really like turns them on and arouses them, versus like somebody could go I think food would be a great example of like, okay, I only like Mexican food, and that's the only type of food I like to eat going out, versus like, I would say like a shapeshifter, and they would be like, I love Mexican food, and I love Italian food, and I also love Asian food, and so
I like it
like
all.
I like it all. I don't care where we go to eat. So really, yeah, figuring out what you like and what you don't like, because like,
Yeah, so
you
important.
might have never tried fish before the first time, and then you do, and you might be like, I can't believe I have lived my whole life without it, or like, you know what, this isn't for me, and now I know that I've tried it and it's actually not for me, and I can say that with certainty.
Right, right. Yeah, thanks for saying that. Yeah, I mean, after I said what I just said before, I was about to say, yeah, sexuality is super fundamental and important. So I'm glad you spoke to that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I agree. I think it's our life force energy,
Yeah.
and it expresses in different ways for different people. And I think we need more maps and more tools, and to normalize the conversation more. And I think for some people, it's threatening to look at how there's so much nuance and gray area and spectrums of things. And but I've always been someone who likes to dive in and appreciate that diversity and that the spectrum quality. And what am I trying to say? It's almost like with our language, like we'll talk about I think we'll get to this maybe later in the conversation, like monogamy versus polyamory,
Yeah.
or heterosexual versus homosexual. And so we have this language that creates these black and white categories, and it's great for communicating, and it's great for making the world make sense. But then if you dive into any one area in depth, you discover worlds within worlds.
Yeah.
For example, here's a different example from a different field. In the world of religious studies, because I have a master's degree in religious studies, there's these, simple definitions of different religions. Okay, Buddhists believe this, Muslims believe that, Christians believe that. And then if you dive into any particular religion, it's so diverse over so many centuries with so many different teachers and groups and communities. It's so complex, and it's beautiful, but it defies easy categorization. Yeah. Right. And that's the reality that we're in, and it's good to appreciate that. And it's also good to have language to communicate, but it's good to develop like a more sophisticated understanding and appreciate the complexities. Yeah. And with our sexuality, there's our biology, there's our culture, there's the family you grew up in. It's very difficult to separate.
Don't forget religion.
The religion. Very difficult to separate the biology from the conditioning. And we actually can't, because human beings have evolved to exist in communities with language and culture. And it happens at such a deep level. Yeah. The ideas that we get inform us and create our world. And it's good to know there's a big world out there. Yeah.
Well, on a most fundamental level and like the biological level, humans are hardwired for connection. Yes. So and you can see that across like all mammals and animals. They are still all connecting. And they are all very sexual. Yeah. So it's really figuring out like, what is it, that turns me on, and that when you figure that out, your life becomes a lot easier. And when you get into intimate dynamics, you really learn what's for you and what isn't. And in this like secure attachment style of, this is me, this is what turns me on, and like, can you meet me where I'm at? Instead of, I think this is what we're supposed to be doing. This is what I've seen like in our culture and media, or like, this is what I was taught from my family, or this is what religion told me about my sexuality. And then they're not really sure how to meet their partner because they don't have a set understanding of their own body.
Right. Yeah, we're doing ourselves a disservice by leaving sexual education to Hollywood and TV shows and social media and porn. Like that's not helping us.
It's all just entertainment. And I bring that up with my clients. I get this common intro is, you probably think I'm weird for bringing this up. and it's like questions about their sexuality. And honestly, everybody has those questions, and it's whether you choose to find the answers or not. And I tell them they're not weird, and we live in a dynamic where uh, nobody's supposed to talk about their sexuality, but everybody's supposed to be really good at it. And
Right.
when was the last time you were really good at something that you never talked about?
Right. Yeah, that's well said. It's really healing to normalize things. That feeling of like, this is really weird. Like, I'm probably the only person on the planet who's
Yeah.
thinking or feeling or having this experience. And it's like so helpful to know and remind yourself, like, if I'm thinking or feeling something, like, there's a good chance there's several million other people at least who can
Yeah.
relate to that.
Yeah.
And
Collective
yeah,
consciousness.
yeah. we are all unique, but we're not as unique as we think we are.
Yeah, totally. And if that idea has popped up, then like maybe somebody else will bring it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I found it to be helpful to if we go back to the biology piece.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch, I love watching, nature documentaries, or go to the zoo, or I'm not a big fan of zoos actually, but being in nature, observing nature, watching a nature documentary, looking at the monkeys or
Yeah.
the whatever it is. Like we
Being in
don't,
the jungle.
we see all these, we see how they mate, we see how they relate, we see how
Yeah.
they fight. We don't tend to think like, oh, that's a bad monkey and that's a good monkey.
Right.
We're like, oh, this is the monkeys in nature.
Yeah.
But when it comes to us humans, we're so caught up in what's right, what's wrong. There's so much shame,
Yeah.
so much embarrassment, like you just shared.
Yeah.
And it's good to like be able to step out of that, like just look at other humans, like you're looking at a nature documentary, and it can be freeing to take that perspective.
Yeah.
And there's truth in it, right?
There's a lot of
Yeah.
truth. That we're just animals.
We're just animals.
We just put clothes on.
Yeah.
So really diving into what sexual dynamics light you up. And like you mentioned, there's this big debate on like which is better, monogamy or polyamory, and like what is the quote unquote right or wrong way to relate to people and have intimate connections.
Yeah.
And if you look at the animal world, they have all different kinds of connections.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to the point I made earlier about kind of seeing the spectrum, the complexity of things, if you look at like polyamory, for example, if you actually talk to or look at someone who's practicing that versus someone else practicing it, there's such a huge range of what that could mean and look like. So the whole category of polyamory, it doesn't actually tell you that much about someone, like in their relationship. You'd have to talk to them and get details and what their agreements are, what their relationship is. So I think monogamy is a little bit more cut and dried, perhaps, but it can also have a huge range of, so many different kinds of relationships. But monogamy has more of a clear road, and it's the cultural norm. It's what we grow up seeing and learning about. Polyamory really opens up the door to like, what kind of relationship do you want to create? And, what version or form do you want to create or play with? And it could be a journey to learn. There's no real right or wrong, but there's a lot more. There's just so many possibilities. I think it's worth saying that because it's not, I find that the ideas people who are not polyamorous have about polyamory tend to not be very accurate. Like the idea that, oh, you're polyamorous, you're just sleeping with everyone. Well, I don't think that's true for 99% of people practicing polyamory, right? So
yeah, it's a different, you basically write your own playbook. And if you're not very good at your likes and dislikes and boundaries, that's usually when it gets messy. And so there's this safety in monogamy of like, if we avoid the same things, then we never have to like discuss them, versus like polyamory where like we have to discuss all of the options because all of the options are on the table. So, and then you can make like the argument of like monogamy, you can create such like a deeper, intimate container with one person. Say if you're with the same person for like 10, 15, 20 years versus having multiple partners in that same amount of time. And like, how can you create that like level of intimacy? And it's really, what are your priorities and figuring out what those are before you like jump on a bandwagon and say like one is better than the other, or one is right or one is wrong, or like they're not successful. I hear that a lot of like polyamorous relationships are not successful.
And that's an interesting one because what does success mean?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. What is the definition of a successful relationship?
Right. If your definition of a successful relationship is you meet, you date, you get married, and you stay together for the rest of your life, then yeah, some relationships will be successful in that way and some won't.
Mm-hmm.
And recognize the reality that many people are dating and in different relationships, and that's not their goal.
Yeah.
So it's not fair to say their relationship wasn't successful if that's not what they are trying to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then, and for most people, they think that like success for a monogamous relationship is just like, don't get divorced. But if you look statistically, I think it's like in the 60% range. Maybe it's, I don't know if it's more or less than that, but like of marriages that get divorced, and how many common times like it's just really normal to say, oh, this is my second marriage, or this is my third marriage. And like that's become a social norm of just being a serial monogamous, which is like, how is that different than polyamory? It's just like a different
lens, different outlook.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just looked it up. So the divorce rate in America today is about 50%.
Okay.
So if that's your definition of success, it means half of us are failing, and that's kind of a depressing outlook.
Yeah.
I wonder if I take a different perspective on it. Higher divorce rate, rather than seen as a failure or a bad thing. Of course, there's some situations where divorce is really, really hard. I totally get that. But I think it's a good thing that more women, more people are able to get divorced if the relationship's not healthy and good.
Right.
You know, let's celebrate that. Like, you can get to a healthy, good relationship. You don't need to stay stuck in a toxic or abusive relationship forever. And when we look at the past where divorce rate was much lower, what percentage of those relationships were either two unhappy people or a physically abusive relationship, or, you know, one partner is cheating all the time and the wife is at home, right? I mean, there's all these stereotypes we have. We have those stereotypes for a reason. They still happen, but I think they were, unfortunately, not that uncommon in the past. And a lot of, especially, it touches on the important issue, right, of women's rights. In America today, a woman has the right to divorce a man that they're married to. And historically, that wasn't the case. The wife was looked at as the husband's property.
Right.
And so I think this is a place where we're evolving in a good direction as a culture. And it's good to be able to exit a relationship if it gets to that point, even if you wanted to make it work, if you tried your best and it's not working. I don't see any shame in it.
No, I don't think so either. I think the issue is this pressure that we're supposed to get married. And usually getting married and monogamy are linked together and usually synonymous, and people use them interchangeably with each other, and that's not actually the case. So a part of that, of like our evolution, is also realizing that like maybe we're not supposed to get married right away.
Take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And
we'll get there eventually. I think that's part of like inevitable evolution of like, we're going to get to a space where we really get to know ourselves and our bodies first before we choose to relate to anyone on a deeper, more intimate level. But that starts with having those conversations of, you know, what you like and what you don't like. What did you learn as a child that you think equates to self-value? So like worthiness and like receiving love. And once you really cultivate those at a young age, then I think I'm curious to know what like the rates are for like people getting into marriage and like how long they're waiting now, because I think like for our parents, they got all married in their early 20s or late
that was
teens.
more the norm, for sure. And that age has gotten later and later. So I mean, on the flip side of what we're sharing, I do want to really respect and appreciate commitment and marriage, and especially when children are involved. And so to your point, like to take the time to really know yourself and really fully be able to make that commitment when it's the right time for you.
Right.
And then I could imagine a world where, I get this would be a big change for our society, but where there are different kinds of marriages. Like, you know, what about a 20-year commitment where you're going to raise children together, and then you'll check in and see if it's still working at the end of that time.
Right.
But you do your best and stay committed. And that would be a different approach rather than till death do us apart. It's like, let's check in 20 years, for just as an example. Like we could have different kinds of bonds, different kinds of marriages. And I like that idea.
I like that idea also. When marriage was created, people did not live for a very long time, and now we're living longer
we're living
and longer.
Yeah.
So how can you commit to till death do us part when it used to be like, oh, we might be together for like 10, 20 years versus now it's like 50 years or 60 years or whatever, however long that we are now dying at whatever age that is.
Hopefully we keep living longer and longer. And for those people that have a life partner and they are married for 50 years and die at age 80, like that's amazing. Like let's celebrate that.
It is. It's learning how to love your partner in all of the different versions of themselves. So think of it, instead of like having multiple partners, it's having like multiple versions of that one person. And their different stages of life. And so sometimes all it takes for a relationship is being honest with each other and being like, this dynamic, what we're doing right now doesn't actually work. How do we pivot so it does work for both of us? And that happens a lot. Back to like the sexuality piece of like, oh, I had a lot of shame around this when we first got together, but now I realize that like it's just eating me inside, and now I need to explore this part of myself. So really meeting your partner where they're at and being like, okay, let's figure it out. And like, what's the next step? And then they come to me.
And people learn and grow and evolve and change, and different parts of ourselves, different chapters of our life. So I was doing research for this podcast with you, and I was looking at psychological studies around happiness and well-being with polyamory versus monogamy. And I was actually I realized I was a little biased. I was expecting to find that polyamorous relationships would lead to less life satisfaction overall, less commitment, less long-term relationships. But what I found, like looking at all the different research, was the most consistent finding across all the relationship science research that I found was secure attachment predicts happiness far more than the relationship style. So people who are polyamorous and people who are monogamous had equal amounts of happiness and well-being and even longevity of their relationships. And that's amazing. And then I also found there is a correlation between people who've had more sexual partners are more likely to cheat or get divorced. And that is coming from a more monogamous-centered worldview. But that was interesting too. So
that is interesting.
It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's statistically true across the general population.
What do you think the psychological on the back end of that is happening?
Well, I don't know for sure. You could imagine if you've had a lot of, or many sexual partners, and then you do get married, you've just had that experience more often. It could be that because you've had more sexual partners in the past, after some amount of time with your current partner, you feel more desire. You're also more skilled, so to speak, at maybe dating or finding other people to hook up with. It could also be that some people are just kind of wired to have more variety and seek more variety. And that shows up through having more sexual partners when they're younger and makes them less satisfied in a long-term relationship. And so it could be more even like a DNA level about, how they're wired. Who knows?
It's incredible to realize how much of our parents and our grandparents' tendencies and actions get ingrained into the DNA and passed on to us. So a lot of that is when you get into like generational trauma work, is really rewiring like multiple generations of the style of response, or like sometimes you'll get triggered and you don't know why that trigger is there. Because you're like, oh, this never like happened to me in my life, but I'm still constantly getting triggered by it. And it's from our parents and our grandparents and how they responded in those situations. So when part of that is the DNA, and then the other part is like if you were a kid and that's how your parents related, and like they were cheating on each other, or one left the
Hmm.
other one, or they had multiple marriages, then you just think like, oh, that's how I'm supposed to act. And like, that's
Yeah.
just how I'm supposed to be.
And it's so deep, and it's largely unconscious, and it's
Yeah.
conditioned, and it's not like you're consciously thinking that, but it's kind of you've observed that from a young age. You've taken that in
Yeah.
from a young age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I got my master's through the Trauma Research Foundation. So
Oh yeah.
that's Dr. Bessel von der Kolk's
Oh, amazing.
whole life's work, basically, of like what constitutes as trauma, and
Hmm.
then how do we make people basically trauma resilient.
Mm.
And a lot of his studies is about how much the subconscious programming that happens ages 5 through 12.
Hmm.
And if you want to be like a very well-rounded, resilient adult, you have to start at ages 5 through 12 of like, how do you handle conflict? How do you
Hmm.
handle disappointment? How do you handle very stressful times in your life? And if you teach kids how to do that and that age frame subconsciously, then like statistically speaking, they are more well-rounded adults
Oh, that's
than
fascinating.
people
Yeah.
who don't get those skills at that time.
Yeah, yeah, and we could imagine a world in which we have much, much better education in our schools around communication and relationship
Yeah.
and all this stuff. But yeah, Van der Kolk, the author of The Body Keeps the Score,
Yeah.
it's such a great book, and highly recommend it.
Yeah. It
That's
was,
great that you're trauma informed. It's so important.
yeah. Yeah, I kind of just like deep dove. I read the book when I was doing my somatic sexological work, and I was like, I need to know more, because I think it just hit like so close to my heart and my body of like I've just been disassociating for so long
Mm.
in my life,
Hmm.
and I'm not even doing it on a conscious level. It's like very subconscious. So how do we work with the subconscious? And it's all in the nervous system, and how we rewire ourselves to
Yep.
be fully embodied.
Yeah, it's good to be really curious and honest with yourself about disassociation. Are you using drugs or alcohol to numb, and is that then where your sexuality is expressing itself, and to be
Mm-hmm.
curious like what's going on there, because that's not the fully conscious you making those choices then,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the times when people uh, go through some type of sexual trauma, their body is so intelligent that it disassociates for them.
Mm.
So, a lot of the times, like your brain will block out those memories, or it will feel like an out of body experience, um, or it goes into a survival instinct of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Usually
Mhm.
it's not fight.
Mhm.
But sometimes it is. Um,
That's so important to share with people that, as a trauma response, you could fawn, meaning making yourself very agreeable and pliable and kinda going along with what the other person wants rather than what you really want,
yeah.
and it's a survival strategy, but it's not obviously gonna lead to a good relationship or a good sex life for anyone. That's not what we want. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
It's technically it's a biological response.
Mhm.
So I really like to empower people into realizing that they can rewire those patterns, and that
Mhm.
they don't have to come through survival instincts when it comes to their sexuality. And it's not really educated well enough that like you can actually rewire how you handle those like really intimate moments with yourself and with others. It really starts with yourself, and
Mhm.
creating that safety that you have you, and then you can move forward into, okay, how do I relate with other people? Um,
Mhm.
it's absolutely possible.
I love that. Yeah, what it makes me think about is, this might be sound a little bit odd to say, but connecting deeply with yourself, relating deeply with yourself, actually making self pleasure as a conscious practice you do as a way to get to know your body
Yeah.
and your sexuality. And I'm a big fan of that. And I think we need more of that. And it's taboo and people don't talk about it much, but in other cultures, it wasn't so taboo. And there's a whole, I had my friend JP on the podcast in the past, and he teaches men how to connect with themselves and to make a conscious practice of self-pleasure where you don't go over the edge of ejaculation.
Yeah.
And you're cultivating that energy, and it's from the Taoist, framework. Yeah. And it's so powerful. And I've been doing those practices, and I think that would serve a lot of people, men and women.
Absolutely.
But I guess I'm thinking more right now of the men, because it's so, the way a lot of men masturbate is so conditioned, so what would it be like to consciously self-pleasure without porn?
Yeah.
Without a goal.
Yeah.
Actually listening to your body, feeling the pleasure, not trying to get anywhere.
Yeah.
And then actually stopping yourself before you get to that point of going over.
Yeah.
And seeing what that's like.
Yeah, most people go into sexuality with an agenda, and it's either to like make their partner climax or make themselves climax. And there's a lot of like missing steps and like juiciness in between. And so for men, yes, that is ultimately the way to do that. And then for women, it's creating safety and figuring out what their likes and dislikes are, instead of like going to the end of like, okay, what is that? What's the end goal? And I think that is what most people think sexuality is like, okay, what's the end goal of sexuality? And it's not the climax, it's the intimacy that you have with yourself and with others, and how do you get into that space?
Make the intimacy the goal. I love that. Yeah, we're so goal oriented, and to take away some of those goals, and to not be people pleasing, right? To be more authentic, be more in yourself. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so rich. I was just going to share, in terms of relationship research and polyamory versus monogamy, the strongest predictors of relationship satisfaction are secure attachment that we talked about, and trust, which is related to secure attachment.
Yeah.
Emotional responsiveness, commitment, and communication.
Yeah.
And I think polyamory really forces you to get way better at communicating.
Yeah.
And hopefully get better at all of those, but it's good.
It's like diving in on the deep end of the pool.
Yeah, it's diving in. But I just think it's fascinating that regardless of your relationship style, there's those common elements that are underneath a happy, healthy relationship, rather than the external trappings. Like, I just think that's fascinating.
It is fascinating. It's and people think they're like completely opposite agendas, but at the end of the day, those core things are what makes a successful relationship. It's not whether or not it lasts for X amount of time. It's really like, how good are you at responding to your emotions? How good are you at communicating? And how good are you at really being there for the other person?
Yeah. We're going to have to wrap up because of our time, but
okay.
It's such a rich conversation. I know a lot of people get polarized around these topics, like with everything in our culture these days, and they want to argue one is better than the other. And so where I'm coming from, and I think you're coming from too, it's like, that's just not even, that's not accurate. One isn't better than the other. It's like, how are you showing up?
Yeah.
And can you be developing these secure attachment qualities and creating real intimacy?
Yeah.
Like I like that. That's the success.
Yeah. How intimate can you be with yourself really directly correlates with how intimate you can be with others. And so it can look a full spectrum of different ways.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Awesome. I had a great time. Thank you.